Are you like me when you have a look on YouTube and you start scrolling along and you see, oh, there's one of those videos, and you start to watch it, and it's some vulnerable person, some usually sort of an old or frail or perhaps a woman on her own, being evicted from her house maybe, or perhaps it's a woman with some children, and there's a foot in the door by some burly bloke, and behind them, seeming to support them, is a bunch of policemen, constables, apparently working for our behalf, but actually seemingly to be there on the behalf of these bailiffs or these enforcement agents. And then actually when you ask them what are you here for, and they say, oh, we're here to stop a breach of the peace, and then later on they admit that they're actually there to help the bailiffs, and you think, what is the world coming to? Everybody seems to be being targeted, it seems, on the slightest thing, an infringement. You know, you've driven down a motorway and a camera has deemed that you've gone too fast. Nobody's affected. There's no real crime. There's no victim. And yet the next thing you know, there's some bloke trying to extort money from you. And if you don't, he's going to come and seize your goods, as they say. Well, I keep seeing these videos and I'm getting a bit worried that actually what we continually see is these people being, as I say, either evicted or having the money coming out or their property being taken away, and the bailiffs continually winning. It's not very good, is it? It's not a good look for those people who are saying, I think we should push back against this, because it just seems to be saying, if you push back against it, if you don't pay these bills, if you think it's not right, if it's against your principle, if you believe that perhaps paying certain bills is actually funding terrorism overseas, as perhaps the council tax does or the inland revenue money does, that the government didn't ask you and is sending it over there, and innocent men, women and children are dying. And if you think that's morally wrong and it's not in the manifesto, and you think, I want to make a stand against this, but if we keep seeing these videos in which the bailiffs and the enforcement officers continually win, how are we ever going to get many people to think, I'm actually going to stand up on that principle? In the end, you're just going to go, you can never win. They always win in the end. We've seen the videos. We're manifesting it, are we not? In fact, I was only having a chat to somebody in the freedom movement who said to me, he said, well, you know, I've got one of these and they were after me. They threatened to take my van, and in the end, I just paid it. I could afford it. I paid it. And you think, but where's the fight gone? Where's the fight? Where's the principle? So I would love to know, are there people out there who are winning? Because what we really need to be able to see is if it's possible to win against these thugs. If there is no court order, if there is no real writ and they're coming for your house, like in the liability order, where if you haven't paid the council tax or on principle you don't agree with it, or you've fallen behind and you can't pay, and you say, well, I want to see the liability order. Where is the signature from the magistrate on proper court paper with the seal and everything, and they can't provide it, yet somehow they win? If we keep seeing that, we're never going to win against this. So this is like somewhat worrying for it. We need to see those people. I mean, there must be some people out there somewhere, surely, who've won against it. Otherwise, why are we wasting our time? Now, there is some good news on the horizon, and I do like to sort of throw some good news out there. I've been working with a nice chap who's been working behind the scenes and has been looking at some of the wins that have happened, and there is legislation to show that this is actually happening. And he through me and my contact with Andrew Bridgen, has approached Andrew Bridgen and said, look, we really need to get this fraud out there with the council tax, because the liability order is not being shown at the door. There is legislation now, or there is case law to prove that actually these enforcement agents are trying to get their way illegally, that they don't have a writ, and people are losing their houses, they're losing their cars, they're having their property stolen illegally because the whole system is wrong. It is a fraudulent thing. And Andrew Bridgen has looked at this, but he said to my friend Paul, he said, the thing is, you see, I can only do something about this if it is my constituents who are complaining about it, if they come to me with it. And although my friend Paul said, and I totally agree with him, this is nationwide, this is across the country, loads of people, Andrew said, well, you have to come from my northwest Leicestershire constituency, and then at least I can then, because I have to be seen to be acting for them only, I can then take it forward and maybe ask questions in the House. So, on that note, if anybody happens to be in Mr. Bridgen's constituency, if you happen to be in that area and you've had your house taken away from you because of council tax, this has to be on the council tax liability order thing, or you've had your van stolen, your car stolen, or your property taken from you, please get in touch with Mr. Bridgen at his parliamentary office in the constituency of North West Leicester, because that means he can actually move and do something about it. And maybe we can start to see some questions in the House. We can put the pressure on, because once that snowball starts, there are people up and down the country feeling this fraud happening to them. And it's not right. It's not lawful. It's not honourable. It shouldn't be happening. And like everybody else who's seeing all these videos coming up going, but I want to challenge this because morally it's wrong. But if the police are on the side of the bailiffs, if there's no one I can go to, if my MP won't listen to me, what kind of society is it that we are living in? Who do you go to? You can't start tackling these bailiffs themselves, because guess what? You're the one that ends up in clink. So we've got to try and do this as honourably as possible. But we do need to see some wins. So I urge you, if you're in the northwest Leicestershire area, please get in touch with Andrew Bridgen. Tell him what you know and what's happened to you. Tell him the experiences, because we do have the legislation which can counter this. We just have to get this on the go. And if you've had wins on all of this and it's worked, do let me know. We must get this information out to as many people as possible, what techniques you're using and how we can prevent these thugs from operating illegally. So I'd love to know that. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back soon.